Thank you, Saku. Yeah, I'm the last one. Thank you, Saku, for inviting me here and truly believing in the work that we're doing back in India. Thank you, Rob. Where's he gone? Somewhere behind. Just such an inspiring and invigorating speech. Thank you. This is Amreen. A few years back, she joined a life skills program that we run at HundrED. She wanted to learn football, and that's what she decided. Last year, she got an opportunity. She was one of the 4 kids selected to go to Russia to watch the Football World Cup and be part of a football festival that was supported by FIFA. She comes from a community that doesn't allow kids, girls especially, to play football. She fought through that. She was definitely not allowed by her parents to travel to Russia. But because she had been in the program for a few years, she's built a sense of resilience, built the life skills that she needed. She convinced her parents to send her to Russia. She did go. She had an amazing experience. She came back with amazing learnings. But that's not the real story. The real story is this. When she came back, her principal took out a procession where Amreen sat on top of her car, and the procession traveled across the neighborhood, where Amreen got a chance to share her story with the whole neighborhood. And she got a chance to share how football changed her life. So the real change maker here was the principal who believed in her and gave her this opportunity and then made sure that this was shown to the world in her community. What happened? In a year from there, the number of girls who joined our football program went up. Just this one story of Amreen standing up for herself, believing in herself, making the choice, negotiating with her community, with her tradition, with her family, and choosing what she believed was right, has today inspired hundreds of girls in her community to choose football. HundrED has been around for 20 years. In fact, the story of HundrED starts in Finland. 20 years back, I was a young 21-year-old. I'd come to Finland on an exchange program. And I was deeply inspired by the level of dignity that people had here. I could walk into a restaurant and become friends with the waiter. I could walk into a store and walk out with the cashier, being friends, and go grab a beer together. I grew up in a society which didn't allow that. I was never friends with a security guard or a waiter back home. Even though I grew up in a relatively poor family, within that we had class systems. The domestic help in our house who took care of me from the day I was born, I didn't know her name. I didn't know what her family was like, where she lived, what kind of life she had. But when I came to Finland, I saw a whole different world. And I got inspired by it, and I said, I want to go back to India and change the way we look at dignity in India. And that was the birth of HundrED. We exist to empower young people from vulnerable backgrounds to overcome adversity and to flourish in this world using a life skills approach. The last couple of days, we've heard a lot of people talk about the frantic pace of change in the world. We had the Minister of Education talk about it. We had the Mayor of Helsinki talk about it. So we know, all of us sitting here, we know that the world is changing very fast. But there's another lens to the challenge that very few of us talk about. Some of us here have been talking about it, which is that a majority of the kids in the world are growing up in experiences of childhood adversity. In the first 5 to 10 years of life, if a child experiences lack of food or nutrition, neglect, lack of emotional care, in extreme cases exposure to violence or abuse or abandonment or displacement, or extreme poverty, it impacts their ability to achieve developmental milestones, resulting in what we call failure to thrive, or stunting. In India today, 48 million children under the age of 5 are stunted. 48 million children. The next country which has a high population of children who are stunted is Nigeria with 10 million. And stunting is not just loss of height and weight. It also impairs your ability to access emotions, to build healthy relationships, to process information. And imagine a whole generation of these kids then at the age of 3 and 4 entering a school system with not having the foundational capacities to access learning. Even if you put them into some of the best school systems, if you have not understood this problem, we will not be able to help them catch up to those developmental milestones. So a combination of a fast pace of change in the world, the increasingly complex, uncertain future, and growing up in childhood adversity resulting in stunting or failure to thrive is a double whammy for all the kids that we work with. And our job has been over the last 20 years to find approaches to help these children build capacities to catch up to their developmental milestones and be prepared to respond and adapt to a complex, uncertain future. We found 2 approaches that we believed really worked for us. One was really discovering the role of the adult. All children across the world, whether they grow up in adversity or grow up in loving, caring families, have their growing up years like that. We get closer to adults, we move away from adults. We have moments of clarity, we have moments of confusion, we have moments of restlessness, we have moments of calm. All of us as kids also grew up like that. What helped us deal with that and grow up to be healthy adults was the presence of a rock-solid adult. How do we unlock more of these attributes in adults and unlock more of this empathy in adults has been a big piece of our work. How do we create environments of trust and empathy and care and authenticity and creativity and safety? And how do adults do that? How do we shift the relationship that teachers today have with students in the classroom? That's been one big piece of our approach. I remember very early on, we used to run camps for children. And at one of these camps, we had this young 10, 11-year-old girl. She participated in all the activities in the camp, but she wouldn't speak a word. We tried, coaxed her, encouraged her, but she wouldn't speak a word. The camp got over, we let her be. We had to walk back from the campsite to the bus stop, which was a 1-hour walk. And we were walking, and out of the blue, she came and held my hand. And for the next 1 hour, as we were walking to the bus stop, she held my hand in complete silence. We sat in the bus, she sat next to me, holding my hand in complete silence. We got to the stop where she had to go her way, I had to go my way, and she started bawling. And the first time she said, "I don't want to go home, take me home with you." And I was 21, I didn't know what to do. But in that moment, many years later, I realized that what she experienced in those 4 days was absolute care, empathy, authenticity, safety. She realized that. She knew that in her body. And many years later, we realized that we could do that. The second thing we realized, and a lot of you as educators know this very well, if I ask you, if you remember everything that you've learned in your biology, chemistry, mathematics, how many of you would say you remember all of it that you studied? Not too many of us. But if I asked you if you remember one person, one experience that left a deep impact on you from your childhood, all of us will have not one but many stories. There could be a teacher, it could be an experience in a theater program or on the sports field. Why do we remember those experiences? Because they were deeply transformative for us. How do we know they were transformative? Because those experiences became a memory in our body. Even now, as you're thinking of that experience, the first response is in your body. You'll probably shiver, you'll probably shake, you'll probably feel something inside, because the body creates that memory. And we discovered that as we worked with children. We said, how do we consistently create these transformative experiences for children? I might have a child just for 2 hours today, and then that child might just run away from home, or might be displaced, or might shift a neighborhood. So what can I create in those 2 hours that could deeply be transformative, that many years later, when this child is facing a difficult situation in life, they can think back at this experience and probably draw strength from it. And that became our framework for change. What does the future look like? India has nearly 300 million children. 140 million children are growing up in circumstances of adversity. 140 million children. So the question we were asking is, we're working with children, we've got all these insights, we've created a framework that's working. Today we've got nearly 95% of the kids that we work with year on year showing significant improvements in life skills, catching up to their developmental milestones. Amazing. But how do we get to 140 million? We discovered that it has to be around mindset change. Not policy change, not government adaptation. It has to be around mindset change. At the core of our work is the child. How do we design approaches and programs that deeply work for every child, for every unequal child? And we figured that out. And then we said, if I have to remove all the paraphernalia and just focus on one core element that could help me gain an insight to take this to more children, what would that be? So in 2010, for a year, we didn't grow our programs. We stayed put, we worked with 10,000 children. All of us in the team went back to the field and asked our children, why do you come to a program? And we were surprised and fascinated. The children said, we come to a program because we feel cared for and we get respect. So I said, okay, how do we then create environments of care and respect for children without having to grow our own program? And what we found is that we need to start working with the environment around the child, the parent, the teacher. If we can transform the parent, the teacher, the adult, and who can then enable environments of care and empathy and respect for the child, it could be a game changer. Increasingly, over the last 20 years, we have seen one adult relationship that's based on elements of care, empathy, respect, authenticity for a child is a game changer for that child. So then we started working with teachers. We've now worked with about 8,000 teachers, impacting about 200,000 kids across India. And what we have discovered is that it's not about the content, it's about the being of the teacher. I remember working with this teacher who went through our program, and he came back and shared this with us. He said, I have this girl in my class who's consistently coming late, and every time she comes late, I send her out. And then he went through our program. The next time he went back to the class, the girl came in late. He sat down with her, and he said, I want to understand, why do you come late to class? The girl was shocked. It's like, you never asked me this. So is something wrong? But she found the courage, and she finally said, I get up early in the morning, I help my parents with household chores, and then I run to school. But I am always running late because we don't have a clock at home. Now, for this teacher, that was a transformative moment, because all this while, he believed she was coming late because she was not interested in learning. In that moment, he discovered that she's deeply committed to learning, but it's a circumstance that's beyond her control. From that day on, he said, I always listen to my children. So we discovered that there are ways to transform teachers and adults in a way that they can deeply move towards empathy and care and respect. Not enough, 200,000. We have to get to 140 million. He said, let's start working with the ecosystem now. A big breakthrough that we had last year was we partnered with one of the state governments in Delhi. The Minister of Education came to us and said, when I go into classrooms, children are scared of coming to school. They're fearful of their teacher. I want to change that. So we worked with him, we worked with the administration, and we introduced a happiness curriculum in 1,024 schools Today, it's a year and a half the program's been running. 800,000 kids every single day start their school day with the happiness session, which includes mindfulness practices, storytelling, and play-based activities. We shifted the ecosystem, but we still had to shift mindsets. So we worked with the minister, and he had an amazing idea. He said, let's invite ministers of education from all states to a happiness festival where we can showcase our work. That happened in July earlier this year, and 5 other state governments decided to integrate a happiness curriculum in the school calendar. And we are working with them, and that, in the next 3 years, could take our impact to 5 million kids. So thank you. So from 10,000 kids that we worked with for the first 15 years of the organization, in the last 4 years, we've moved to 1 million, and now in the next 3 years to 5 million. Now that's the mindset change. What was the mindset change in that? For the first time in many decades, we managed to shift something in the school calendar. The school calendar is sacrosanct. It's not been changed for decades. We managed to bring in a happiness session in that. What that has done for teachers and educators and the administration is they've now understood there's possibility. I can introduce more. So earlier this year, for the older grades, we introduced an entrepreneurial mindset curriculum working with the partner nonprofits for the older grades. So the minister's really now moving forward with this. I'm going to skip through this. Finally, I'm going to come to this. Now, all this is fine. Great numbers to show, great impact to show. But the real mindset shift, and any change in education, I believe, takes a generation of shift. Anyone who says I can shift kids in education in a year or 5 years of a political cycle, not true. It takes a generation to shift. The young man with the beard in the photograph is Prasanna, one of the kids that I started working with personally when he was 8 years old and I was 21 years old. He joined a field hockey program. The first day we got into the program, he got into a fight with another kid, picked up a hockey stick, hit him on the head, broke his head. And we were like, okay, he's out of the program. We had an amazing coach. He said, no, he's not out of the program. He's going to get 30 minutes of extra practice every day so he learns to then regulate his emotions. We discovered he came from a violent family background. The extra practice helped him channelize all his anger and violence and aggression into the sport. In a year, he became the best sportsman we had in the field hockey team. Amazing. A few months later, or a year later, he disappeared from school. For 2 months, we didn't know where he was. Myself and a volunteer decided to go search for him. We didn't know where he lived. We knew the neighborhood, so we walked around. After about 6 hours of looking around, we saw him. And the moment he saw us, something shifted in him. He had been taken out of school by his father. His father had told him, enough of school, now come to work with me. He had been working in a quarry, breaking bricks. But in that moment, he realized that someone came looking for me. Someone trusted and believed me enough. He decided he's going to finish school, finish college. Finished school, finished college, joined us, became a facilitator with us for many years, studying to be a lawyer now. He found his passion in filmmaking. He works with us as a filmmaker and photographer. Because he comes from the community, he is able to bring stories from the community alive through his filmmaking. He just had a kid, Shanvi, a young girl, 3 months old. His kid is going to have a very different life. That's mindset change. Thank you.